And record's not on here now.
It looks like it's recording.
Okay. Maybe that's automatic with this level. Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon. We're just going to give it a minute or two here for everyone to log in. So hold tight.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Mac, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I think we can go on ahead and get started. So thank you for logging into our Mulberry Talent Partners Job Search Workshop. We're so excited to have you here today. I want to just do a quick special thanks to the team at MaxList and to our team at Mulberry Talent Partners for making this possible today. So just quick little introductions. We're joined today by Mac Prichard, who is the founder and publisher at MaxList, and the founder also at Prichard Communications. And then we have our very own Lauren Francis, who is the founder and president of Mulberry Talent Partners. And then I'm Laura Back. I am the operations and marketing director at Mulberry Talent Partners. So just a little bit about us. We were founded in 2017. We are a staffing and recruitment agency headquartered here in Portland. We specialize in human resources, professional and financial, office, payroll, and operations positions for temp to hire, and direct hire. So now, without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Mac to jump into some of his slides.
Well, thank you, and bear with me. I'm just transferring this over. And let me do that right now. Okay. Thanks, everybody. I'm the publisher of MaxList. We're a job board and career hub here in Portland, Oregon that serves employers and job seekers throughout the Pacific Northwest. And we have a website that includes a job board, as well as lots of content about how to get good at job hunting as a skill. And we do that because so many jobs are filled through referrals and word of mouth. If you visit our site, you'll find not only a job board, but several books, online courses, and a weekly podcast that'll help you get good at job hunting. Today, I'm going to keep this very brief. I'm going to share my top 3 COVID-19 job search tips, and then I'll include a slide at the end with some resources that can be helpful to you in your job search, and then we want to get to your questions. So let me jump right into it. Job search tip number 1. The job search basics matter more than ever. It is so important because of the increased competition in today's economy to do the basics. And these include things like setting a clear job search goal, knowing what you want and where you want to be. You've also got to pay attention to your resume and your application materials, and you need to customize them. And it does take time to do that. And it's another reason why you need to be clear about your goals, because again, you're going to be competing against a much larger number of people, and generic cover letters and resumes are not going to make the cut. Another important thing to keep in mind is not waiting for job openings to pop up online on job boards like mine. You need a short list of targeted companies that you want to reach out to, and you need to start networking inside these companies where you want to work. And finally, pay attention to how you spend your time. Too many job seekers I meet, and I did this early in my career as well, spend almost all their time looking at online job postings. There's data out there that shows as many as 40 to 80% of all jobs are filled by referrals, and you got to adjust your time to allow for the networking, the conversations, and the virtual connections that are going to help you find out about those. So again, basics matter. Here's my job search tip number 2. You've got to learn new virtual job search skills. Very quickly, that means getting good at things like video informational interviews. And I know Lauren's going to talk about that in a moment. But you mastering technology, paying attention to your surroundings and backgrounds when you're doing so much of your both networking and interviewing via video is going to be essential. You've also got to learn how to network remotely or improve your skills in that area if you've already been doing it. That means doing things like asking questions in chat rooms, connecting with speakers in webinars like this via LinkedIn or via email afterwards, looking for ways to build virtual relationships that, again, can help you find out about opportunities that might never be advertised. And finally, it means paying even more attention to your online presence, not only updating and refreshing your LinkedIn profile, but looking at the content that you share online. Finally, recognize job search now is going to take longer, and that means you got to take care of yourself and be patient with yourself. Recognize that it's always hard to look for work, but it's going to be even challenging in the weeks and months ahead. So don't spend all day, every day looking for work if you're doing a search. Set aside 30, no more than 40 hours a week. Treat it like a full-time job if you can allow that much time. But recognize that you're going to get diminishing returns if you try to do more than that. Don't neglect family and friends. Personal relationships are so important, especially now. And make time during your search, especially if you're doing a full-time search, for hobbies and interests, and pay attention to the things that you enjoy doing and don't stop doing those. It's going to be a marathon for many of us. We're going through this process and we need to take care of ourselves. So let me just finish by sharing some resources. We'll share these with you via email, these slides, and I know Lauren and Laura will share their slides as well. We do publish 2 free weekly newsletters, one that comes out on Tuesday with a list of all the new jobs on our site. And on Wednesday, we share our latest podcast episode. There's some specific COVID-19 job search resources that are included as well, especially relevant to people in the Portland market. So let me turn it back to Laura and Lauren.
Thank you, Mac.
You're welcome. And bear with me while I give you back the...
There we go.
There we go. Great.
So as Mac mentioned, we will be sharing the slides and some additional resources. So you can expect to see an email from Mulberry Talent Partners coming into your inbox on Tuesday. So now Lauren is going to dive into some job search strategy tips.
Yes, and Mac, you covered many of the areas that we are going to talk about today. Again, we agree with Mac that researching companies that you may not have considered, or in industries that you may not have considered in the past. We agree also about job boards. It's important to look at other opportunities and to look at the career pages on the company website. We find that it's very possible that there are jobs that are listed on the careers page, ones that you would not have considered for yourself, that actually may be a great fit for you. So it's important to take the time to explore the website in detail. In terms of job descriptions, if there are jobs that you're considering, it's a really good time to take time to review the job descriptions and to provide and to answer potential questions that may come up in an interview, and to really fully vet that with others and to explore that. And the reason why is that we find that many hiring managers do not move forward with candidates that aren't able to articulate the depth of their experience in a way that they can really see that on the job you're set up for success. Staffing agencies, this is critical. We think that there are going to be more temporary and contract roles, more than there have been coming out of this and during this crisis that we're in. We feel it's important to register with a minimum of 4 agencies. Google Staffing Agencies Portland, Oregon, and register with agencies that you could register with agencies that are boutique agencies like ours. There are quite a few in Portland, as well as national firms that are here, and connect with a recruiter that you feel that really understands your background, and also agencies that specialize in your career area. In terms of the resume, Mac touched on that. We think it's a good time to look at different resume templates to see if maybe there's another way that you can showcase your experience and background through a different template, and to use your colleagues and friends to look at your resume, to edit it, to help with how you are presenting yourself. You can also look at career coaches and people, the professional resume writers, but there are a lot of resources out there, including MaxList and others. Also, to kind of go back to the staffing agencies, ask the recruiter that you're working with to look at your resume and to provide some feedback. And they often, because they look at resumes all day, they can oftentimes be very helpful in helping you reshape your resume. In terms of your LinkedIn profile, Mac, I think you did a great job sharing the details there, professional picture, and to make sure that you are positioning yourself for your particular area of expertise. And then Mac, you had mentioned earlier in a call about the that you change your setting to actively looking. And then in terms of career development, this is a great time to get the certification you've been wanting to take, to sign up for webinars and online courses, and be sure to add those to your resume, particularly if you're pursuing a certification and you're registered for the course and you expect to have that certification by June of 2021. That's on your resume, that you expect to have that certification, so people can see that you are advancing in your career and in your area of work. Networking, this is critically important. Mac touched on this as well. And I think that one of the things that I see is that people network when they are not unemployed, and they don't network when they're employed. And that's a challenge, because many people, the first thing they do when they are when they're unemployed or in that position, they go to their network first. And so I think it's important to engage and build relationships within those networking groups, and find networking groups that are appealing to you, ones that you really connect to. You're not going there just to grab connections. You're going there to you're going to those groups because you want to be a part of that group. So Laura, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Lauren. So we're quickly just going to give some of our virtual interview tips. We could do an entire webinar about this, and we actually are going to have one coming up, but we just kind of wanted to share some quick tips. So before the virtual interview, it's important to set the stage. So set yourself up for success by putting yourself in a room with a professional background, nothing that's distracting. Make sure that the lighting is good so that you're not, you don't have a spotlight over you, which would probably make you nervous. Research and prepare like you would for a normal interview. Do all the preparation. And we'll share some of our typical interview tips as well when I send out that email on Tuesday. Test out the technology. This is so important. Make sure that Zoom is installed on your computer so that you're not late for the interview. Check your audio, check your visual. If you need to, even do a test with a friend just to see, how things are going. Make sure that your Wi-Fi connection is good so that you don't have any of those problems going into it. Remove distractions. So turn off your phone, put it in another room. Remove pets, children, turn off the TV, the radio. Make sure that all of those distractions are out of the room. Dress like you would for a normal interview. Not only is it going to make you look professional, but you're going to feel a lot better if you're dressed appropriately. The other thing that's important is to sit down 5 or 10 minutes early. Don't log in, 30 seconds before, feeling rushed. Sit down, take time to compose yourself, review your questions, and some of the answers that you maybe already have prepared. During the interview, it's important to make eye contact with the camera. Don't stare at the person that you're interviewing. This will help to kind of make things feel a little bit more engaging. Pay attention to your body language. Don't do any of this. Don't, cross your arms. Don't do any nervous tics that they could maybe hear. it's the same sort of preparation that you would do for an in-person interview, but it's a little bit easier, I think, at home to sort of fall into some of those traps. So just pay attention to that. Be your authentic self, remember to smile, be engaging, and make sure to come with your pre-prepared questions. We recommend having about 2 to 3 ahead of time. And also, you know, have a pen and paper handy during the interview so that you could go on ahead and jot down some questions that might come up. Again, these are kind of just standard interview, you know, prep tips. And then after, be sure to send a thank you note. Same day. We always recommend same day, expressing your interest in the position, and, you know, maybe bringing up anything from the interview just to kind of help personalize the message. That's a good way to sort of set yourself ahead of other candidates. So ahead of time, we went on ahead and collected questions. We had lots of questions, so I apologize that we can't get to all of them, but we do have a select few. So we'll go on ahead and jump into those now. This first question is for Mac. Mac, what sectors would you recommend candidates focus on in this current climate?
I think it comes back to a person's goals, and companies are still hiring, and I know we're going to talk more about that in a moment, but whatever your sector, the numbers are probably way, way down, but don't give up on your profession because we're going through a very tough time, and it is tough. I mean, double-digit unemployment. We haven't seen this in decades. So I would answer this question in 2 ways. One, once you're clear about your goals and the sector you want to work in, continue to look for opportunities there. Certainly, there are other sectors right now that are hiring, but might be outside of your profession. The obvious examples that come to mind are service businesses like grocery stores and warehouses. And if you need short-term income, that might be an option. But I'd encourage you, again, to focus on where your strengths are and where you've built your career, and recognize that it may take a long time, but you're probably going to be better served by sticking with what you know.
Great. Okay, and this next question is also for Mac, and it's, are companies hiring?
They are, and again, in very reduced numbers, with some exceptions, obvious ones that we're all reading about in the media, examples like Amazon and grocery stores. But I think what matters here is what business is a company in, and you can get very different. Have very different experiences depending on the service the company provides. Good example is in the Portland Business Journal 2 weeks ago, there was an article about the wine industry in Oregon. Many wineries, their business depends on tasting rooms and people coming in, and not surprisingly, those wineries are not doing well. But there are a handful of wineries that produce products for wholesalers and large retailers, and they're seeing a boom in sales. Wine consumption is actually up. So they're looking for hiring. And this comes back to a point that Lauren made too about getting clear about your target companies. I know I mentioned this too. If you want a position in the wine industry right now, for example, obviously you'd be better served by focusing on the companies that are serving those wholesale markets. And if you have clear goals and a list of target companies, and you're doing the homework that'll help you understand the industry, you'll get insights like that, no matter what sector or companies interest you.
Great. Okay, this is a little bit of a longer one, but I think it's important. So this attendee views interviews as a key component of gathering the culture of the office. Without these, what kind of questions can she ask in an interview to help gauge the culture outside of the typical tell me about your culture type interview question?
Culture always matters, and I'm glad this question came in. I think there are 2 ways you can address this. One is you need to be doing your research as part of preparation for the interviews about a company and its culture, and not only doing the basics like looking at a website or seeing how the company is portrayed in the media, but you should also reach out to people you find on LinkedIn and through other online sources who either work at the company or have worked there in the past, and have conversations with them before the interview about the company culture. I think in the interview itself, aside from asking that basic question, tell me about the culture, think about the values that are important to you and construct questions that are going to draw out answers about those values. And those values will vary depending on the applicant, but obvious examples include questions about work-life balance, company policies that can support family time, questions about management style. And so you want to have those, you want to do that work before you walk into the virtual interview. I assume it's going to be on camera, and have those questions ready so that when it's your chance to ask those questions, you're prepared.
Great, thank you. Okay, and this next one is for Lauren. Lauren, with everyone being laid off, or what it feels like, is it okay to make a LinkedIn post asking for assistance from your network?
I'm so glad this came in too. Yeah, absolutely. We talked to a couple of candidates this week that thought about doing it. They were advised not to post about it, and they did it anyway. I'm so glad they listened to themselves. And then both candidates are actually, one is in the interview process for a couple companies, and the other one is receiving an offer, I think, today. So I think that's really important to make sure, though, that your LinkedIn post is professional, and that you share that you've just been laid off and that you are looking for a role in a particular area, and what sort of roles are you qualified for and seeking. So that's important as well.
Great, thank you. And I know, just to touch back to what you had mentioned earlier, Mac had shared with us that there's a really important tool on LinkedIn that you should click. And we can find a kind of a guide on how to do that and share that when we email on Tuesday. But it's basically, you would click to signal to recruiters that you are open to looking so that you can show up in recruiter searches. So you might not have that right now, and so you're getting less visibility. I think too, when you do a post like this, you should make sure that people can share it so that it can be shared outside of your network. So check your settings when you do that.
And I would add quickly, in your LinkedIn profile, make it easy for people to reach out to you. We all have an email address that we put on our resume or application materials. Include that in your summary. So if somebody wants to email you, they don't have to spend 5 minutes or 10 minutes doing a Google search. And if you're comfortable sharing a cell phone number or a Google Voice number, that's helpful too, because the easier you make it for people to contact you, the more likely they are to do so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. And this question is also for Lauren. Lauren, what skills and experience do you foresee as being important to employers as we come out of this quarantine and start getting back into the workplace?
I think it's going to be important I think there are going to be more remote roles, and to prepare yourself for working remotely and productively in a remote setting. And I think communication is going to be key, and using tools and having experience with tools that will help you communicate with your teams and the other people, your other colleagues, such as Zoom, Slack, Asana, and so on. Candidates with these technical skills are going to definitely be at an advantage.
Great. Okay, and then Lauren, we had this question come up quite a bit. How should somebody engage best with recruiters? What's a good strategy?
I think reaching out to recruiters, with both agency recruiters and corporate recruiters, and to be very mindful of your communications. We call it thoughtful communication. That we reach out to someone at top 3 times because we don't want to overwhelm people. We also want to make sure that when you're responding or when you're reaching out to people, that you're very clear, your message is clear, and it's not too long-winded, and be very clear about what you're looking for and why you're reaching out. It's important too that you are, anyway, we talk about the three-time rule. And sometimes people just don't respond back, and that's just the way it works sometimes. But it's important to do your best to network and create those connections.
Okay. And then Mac, how can a candidate combat ageism while interviewing for roles, especially during this time?
I think there are 2 steps here, but they both begin with recognizing that While ageism is illegal, it's real. It happens all the time, and I'm not excusing it in any way. I think one of the most powerful ways you can address it is to start with the misconceptions that, for better or worse, an employer might have about an older worker. And I speak as someone who's 61, so I get it. I see it all the time in the workplace, and I talk to job seekers who tell me about it all the time. But start with those misconceptions, and let's just rattle through a couple of them. And I'm not saying these are real, but this is what is in people's heads. Older workers they're looking for a place to coast. They're going to be too expensive. They don't know how to learn new skills. They have trouble working with people of different age groups. So your challenge when you're an older worker is to identify those misconceptions and address them first in your application materials. So look at your online presence and make sure that you do have a digital footprint and that it does convey the picture you want to paint of what you have to offer to an employer. In other words, are you active on sites like LinkedIn? Are you publishing regularly or commenting on material? Is your LinkedIn profile, does it demonstrate that you are indeed a learner, that you have had success and worked with people of different age groups? And then I think it's also something you need to address in the interviews. So nobody is going to say these things in an interview. So it's kind of like the elephant in the room, and you've got to address it in a positive way. That means providing concrete examples of how you've worked with people of different generations, how you enjoyed learning new skills, and giving examples of how you've done that. In other words, showing, not just telling. And if you do that, I think you'll, both in your application materials and your interviews, you'll reduce the likelihood of ageism being a factor in hiring. And again, recognize how hiring works, understand how the system works, and make it work for you. In the end, referrals are so powerful. So if you have a referral into an interview, no matter what your age, whether you're a millennial or a boomer like me, it's going to give you an advantage over a candidate who doesn't, but it's also going to put you on a different footing than somebody who's coming in cold and a hiring manager might have misconceptions about.
Great. Thanks, Mac.
Thanks, Mac.
That wraps up. Oh, nope. I was wrong. What tips, Lauren, do you have to follow up on roles that have been put on hold due to the virus?
We refer to, well, our recommendation is to be thoughtfully persistent and remember to be patient during this time, because the process is moving much slower than normal, and we just have to all expect that there are going to be delays. Stay in touch, be mindful not to check in too often, and try to send messages that do not require a response. That's very important to you just know that you're there and just looking forward to next steps. Hope you have a great weekend, that kind of thing. And so then what happens is that it shows that you're there, that you're interested, that you're curious about what's happening, but you're not asking, and because they will reach out to you when the time is right. There are many companies that, obviously we know healthcare is very busy, but technology companies are extremely busy right now. We find obviously the banking industry, finance, there's a lot of, there's so much going on in those organizations. And so we have to be mindful that they may not be able to get back to us in a timely fashion.
Great. Okay, so that wraps up the questions, and we are running out of time here. So just quickly, we're going to have some upcoming workshops, and we have you in our email listing now, so we will go on ahead and share these with you. We're going to have one on networking versus relationship building, co-mentoring in the workplace, virtual interviews, and then one specifically for people who are either new to Portland or planning to move to Portland once the quarantine is over. So we will share those details in the coming weeks. And hope you can attend. In the meantime, you can visit us at mulberrytalent.com, connect with us on LinkedIn. Be sure to send us a LinkedIn request. I'll include those links in our email as well. And then if you're a candidate who's looking for help and might fall into one of our specialty areas, go on ahead and email us your resume at hello@mulberrytalent.com, and we'd love to help you. So Thanks to Mac and Lauren today, and for all of you for tuning in. This has been great, and I hope that you've all found it informative.
Thank you all so much. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. And I invite people to connect with me on LinkedIn as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Mac. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.